Thanks for tuning in, everyone, to another episode of Let's Talk, where I meet with interesting people from different walks of life and we talk about their journey and how they got here and what it is they're doing. Before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button, click that bell so you get notified with all these videos that come out. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I have Natasha Link with me. Thanks for being here, Natasha.
Hi.
Hey, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of tell everyone what it is you do.
Okay, well, I just started writing, or really trying to write seriously within the past year. I started a blog, joined Twitter to discover the amazing writing community,
Mm-hmm.
and I found a lot of really cool people to connect with. And I write for Elephant Journal sometimes and Medium, if you've ever heard of that. And then just my own personal blog as well.
Okay. Um, and so kind of explain to people kind of the theme of your blog, and I don't know if you have a goal of it, but it seems that there's like an overall message.
Well, there's not necessarily, I mean, I guess it's more of like a unintended theme.
Mm-hmm.
I just write like personal stories that I feel would be beneficial to others. Um, a lot to do with just my journey and healing and kind of accepting all of our flaws and anything that has happened to us, and just kind of growing and learning and self-love and becoming okay with who you are.
Yeah. So I came upon you. I was browsing Twitter, and I follow the writing community, and I'm connected with quite a few people there, and your name popped up. And so, and then I saw that you write a blog, so I definitely checked it out. And it definitely seems, and we were kind of talking about this before we started, that it's very much like accept your pain and your problems so that you can find healing. Can you talk about that? Is that something you had to learn, or is that something you were taught?
No, I wasn't taught that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of something that I've learned just in my own journey. um, I've been through some difficult things in my life, and I was in a dark place for a long time. And I'm in a really great place now. And it's just kind of like feeling like sharing kind of how I got from there to here along the way, a little bit at a time. I am working on something much bigger. I'm working on a novel,
Okay.
and I'm hoping it will be. I'm not real sure exactly how it's going to turn out.
Sure.
I'm just kind of working on bits and pieces at this time. I'm hoping that it'll be kind of like a memoir style, um, spiritual, inspirational, self help type of book.
Okay. So so we don't have to necessarily talk about the 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 troubles that you had, but you
Mm-hmm.
said you were in a dark place. Is there a moment where things started shifting in your thought process?
Yeah, actually, I think we all have our own version of rock bottom. Um, and I kind of got to that point a few years ago. I moved back into my parents' house as a single mom,
Hmm.
and just my life was just a mess. And I had no idea where I was going or who I even was anymore. And so that kind of was the time period where everything turned around. Kind of have to break open before you can put yourself back together, I guess.
Yeah. Was it like a so well first before I ask more questions because I've got plenty. It's
Okay.
and I think it's really relevant because like a lot of people have these struggles, and a lot of people are depressed whether they admit it or not, and a lot of people like you said, you didn't know who you were, so like they're struggling with this purpose, and so I'm really glad we get to talk because I think it's really important, that people hear this and that they learn to find healing. Uh, so so you moved in with your mom.
Yeah.
was she trying to because your mind shift happened, right? Was she,
The thing is I was in a really bad relationship
okay.
before that, and moving home for me was kind of like admitting defeat of that I couldn't make it out in the world on my own and raise this child on my own. So it was really a hard thing to do because I had to move from hours away and basically start all over from where I had been. And it was kind of one of those things where you didn't realize how bad your life had really gotten until you had the time to step away from it and realize, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense.
And so, oops, sorry,
it happens. It's okay.
So I guess I came across a quote the other day that made a lot of sense to me, and it said, sometimes the healing is worse than the wound, or hurts more than the wound. And I think that can be true, because when you're in the middle of something, you're just trying to survive day to day.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get through. And then it's when you're outside of the situation that you can really look at it and be like, wow, I can't believe that I let that happen to me, or that I was allowing this to go on. And then that can hurt in a whole different way.
You were in a bad relationship. We don't have to get into the details. I don't want to do that for you.
I don't want to get sued.
Yeah, no, we won't do any of that. But you said it was a struggle because it was admitting defeat. So when you finally made the decision that you were going to move on, what was going on in your head? Do you remember?
That I was going to move home, or that I was going to
that you were getting out of the relationship, that you were moving home. Like, what do you remember? What the battle and during that time in your thoughts was?
That, I mean, basically what it boils down to is that I wanted better for my daughter. She was very young at the time, and I was like, she's going to grow up seeing this, and this is not something that I want her to grow up and think is okay.
Gosh, that's such a tough decision. That is such a tough decision. So you move in with your mom.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, I'm glad you got to do that.
Yeah.
And I hope it was a safe place to go. I don't know how else to say it, but like I hope everyone's mom is a safe place to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, your mom should always be the person you can run to.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're broken there. What were the first stages of healing like?
Well, I guess for a while I just kind of lived. I mean, she let me just move home and just be a mom.
Yeah.
And she was okay with me not getting a job right away. And I think I just needed that time to kind of figure things out. And then I just got kind of tired of my own bullshit, I guess.
Okay.
And then I started to, put my life back together.
Okay.
One step at a time.
Were you journaling at the time? Were you...
No. I think, I used to write when I was younger, and then I kind of just set it aside. And I think for a long time I was just too close to any pain that it was too hard for me to write about it. And when I was younger, I used to write fiction, and I thought I was going to be a fiction writer someday. And then I stopped for a really long time. And because every time I write, that's not what comes out. It's not fiction. It's just my life.
It could be fiction that comes out. It could be.
I could fictionalize.
Well, that could still be a dream that happens, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we can talk about that in a minute. Uh, so how how did you start figuring out how to make adjustments? Because I think if you're journaling, it's easy. You're like, okay, I'm journaling. Clearly, this is something that bothers me, and this is something that bothers me. But if you're not doing that, how are you figuring that out?
I have no idea. I mean, I was just winging it.
At least you're honest. Well, I think, but I think you said something important. It's you quit lying to yourself. Like you quit accepting your lies, and so you just had to be honest.
Yeah. Taking responsibility for the role that you played in things. Um, we get into this victim mentality at times in our lives, and yes, bad things happen to us sometimes, and they're not our fault, but how we respond to it is. And kind of owning that and taking responsibility for what you can do differently, or what you can do to change your own life, instead of just giving up and just being like, okay, I guess this is it,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
makes perfect sense. Because I know people who have just given up. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was there at one point. I don't, looking back, my situation was not as bad as I thought it was during it. But I was just really depressed. But I think you're right. There's just a lot of people who just give up, and they sit there and they say, well, this is what my life's going to be until it's over.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, I'm gonna get my phone charger so my
no,
phone
you're fine.
doesn't die.
No, you're fine. If it dies, I'll end this as part one, and then I'll call you back for part two.
Okay.
um, man, how long? I mean, so healing never ends. We're in a flawed world. We're flawed people.
Right.
But clearly, you're much better than you were.
Yes.
How long was that process?
Well, I mean, it's years. It's a long process.
Yeah.
You don't just
Yeah, you don't wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm over everything," but
no, but you do wake up one day and say, I want to change, and you want to do better and be better, and you want your life to be better.
yeah.
I guess that's what happened for me anyway. And then, I do remember after I moved out of my parents' house. Sorry, is there a light?
No, there's a fly in my office.
Oh, okay.
Keeps
I
flying right
remember
in front
after
of
I
my face.
finally moved out of my parents' house, and at that point I was working 2 jobs, and I was a single mom and making it work. And it's honestly, looking back at that time, I was like, I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really challenging, but I rocked it, and but I remember I was working at a school at the time with behavioral issue students, and we had this speaker come. I can't remember his name, but he wrote this book called Make a Difference. I can't remember the title. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's something about making a difference, and I should look it up because he was a really great speaker, and it was actually a really good book. And I just remember that during his speech, he said, things are going to happen to you, and they either make you bitter or better, stronger or weaker. And that just really hit home for me, because you get to choose. You get to choose whether the things that happen to you make you better or stronger, rather than bitter or weaker. Because our challenges and our problems and our pain, they are there to help us grow. Everything that happens to us happens for us, in my opinion, I guess.
Well, I think you're right. I think that's a good opinion to have. I think it's right.
Yeah.
Uh, because and like I agree with it. I 100% agree with it. And it's also like there's some people I wish every person in the world was really nice and virtuous and I strive to be like everyone. But we know there's people who come in our lives that are not that way.
Yeah.
And I've learned that I can't accept the people. It's like what you were saying. Like I can't accept the people that come into my life, but I can look at them and say I want to be like this person, and I don't want to be like this person. And then ask what is it about them I don't want to be like. So I think it's the same thing that you're saying. Like some things are going to happen, and how you react is going to change who you become.
Yeah.
You're a single mom, working 2 jobs.
Yeah, I was.
Right. You were. Yeah. Right.
Thankfully.
What was that like? Because there's going to be people who listen to this who are a single mom working 2 jobs.
Yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. I was working all the time, and then so I was definitely changed like who I was as a parent, as far as the time that we got to spend together.
Right.
I was definitely not a disciplinarian. It was pretty much whatever you want because I want to enjoy this time with you.
Yeah, that's.
It was, you would have to choose sometimes whether you could pay your daycare bill or get groceries, and it was difficult.
Gosh, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
What do you think? So you get out of that, you get out of that. What you have a bachelor degree in psychology, correct?
Yeah.
Where'd you get that from?
St. Cloud State University.
Okay. Did you get the degree before this or after?
Yeah, I mean, luckily, I did graduate from college before I accidentally got pregnant. But you know, a bachelor's degree in psychology does not do a whole lot for you as far as getting into a career. You know, just like a bachelor's degree in philosophy or sociology. You know?
Yeah, that's really sad too. Everything you just said is really sad because I know people who majored in philosophy and I love talking to them. They're some of the smartest people I know. Definitely. People who major in psychology are some of the smartest people I know. But it doesn't help them get a job at business, unfortunately. So hopefully that will change in the future, but I don't.
I mean, I had planned on going to grad school and getting my master's degree. I wanted to be a counselor or a therapist, but, you know, life happens and things, you know, they change. Your plans change, your goals change, your dreams change. And
do you still have that desire?
What was that?
Do you still have that desire?
Sometimes I'm like, sorry, things keep popping up on my phone. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, I really should just be a counselor because people come to me for advice and people just come and tell me their secrets all the time. I just have this like, people just want to tell me things.
Well, I mean, you're really easy to talk to. You're a really sweet person. That's not surprising. And clearly, like, you have some knowledge, at least of how things work. I mean, everything you've gone through, and you have a degree in the brain, so that helps. What was it that drew you to psychology?
Well, you know, it was just really interesting. I actually didn't plan on majoring in psychology when I started college, but I just kept taking the classes because they were really interesting. I just loved learning about, you know, why people do the things that they do and trying to figure out what makes people tick and the underlying factors. And one of my favorite classes was the psychology of positivity. That was a really cool class. And we read some really awesome books in there. And I loved it.
So you get your degree and then you go through all this stuff.
Yeah.
Did anything you learn help you for that?
And
I'm not trying to. but for anyone watching, I'm not trying to bash the education system. I'm just genuinely curious.
I'm sure that it did, like subconsciously. But at the time I was just like overwhelmed. So it wasn't like I was like, oh, I learned about this. I didn't like psychoanalyze myself or give myself therapy.
I'm sure there's some people out there doing that.
Well, and honestly, probably part of why I went into studying psychology in the first place is I probably needed therapy.
I think there's that joke, right? That's the reason people become psychologists, right?
We're all a little crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's be honest, we're all a little crazy.
We all are. Everyone is. Anyone that says they're not is lying.
No, we're all a little crazy. So, when you went down from 2 jobs to 1 job,
yeah,
how much did your life change?
So much. Oh, so much. It was amazing. I became a better mom. Life just got easier, I guess. Just being able to rely on consistent income, because I was waitressing when I was working 2 jobs. So I never could, if it's slow, you're not going to make any money, and you can't count on it, and you have no idea what it's going to bring. So.
Gosh. And you said the other job was a healthcare worker? Recently?
I worked at a school.
Oh, a school, that's right. That had to have been so tough. Now, obviously, your daughter was older because you went through all that, so she's literally aging during that. But
yeah.
Did you notice a difference in her behavior when you went from 2 jobs to 1 job?
Well, it's so hard to say because I didn't just go from 2 jobs to 1 job. I met my now husband and we moved in together, and he told me he would like me to not work weekends and evenings anymore. Okay. And so I stopped witnessing, and obviously things changed in the whole dynamics of our little family where but I think it was all good for her. Because then she also had somebody that could be the disciplinarian that I couldn't be.
Right. So that was my next question is like, what was the difference between having no male figure to having a male figure?
Oh, I'm sure the difference was huge for her. That's her dad. Yeah. She calls him dad, and they have a great relationship.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet. I'm really happy for you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So on your blog, which I'm going to throw down in the link below, in the description below for anyone watching this on YouTube, you can check it out. When you sit down to write, are you just writing? Are you just writing whatever's coming to you at the time, or are you planning that ahead of time?
I don't plan anything ahead. I guess you'd call me a pantster.
I prefer discovery writer. Pantster always just sounds weird to me. Like, it just sounds weird.
Well, I just kind of go with the flow. That's why you'll see, if you read my blog, you'll see there's poetry on there as well. Sometimes
I want to talk about that.
Just what comes through. I just start writing, and there's a whole lot that I've written that might not ever see the light of day.
Sure.
But there, that's why, and I don't have a ton of time to write either. I work full time still, and I have 2 kids now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So life's kind of chaotic, and sometimes it's just 30 minutes on my lunch break that I get to write. And
have you? There's so many questions I want to ask. So you said you primarily write 30 minutes on your lunch hour.
Yeah.
Do you notice a difference in your attitude throughout the day when you do and you don't write?
Yes, 100%. Days that I write are just significantly better. Yeah. I just feel so much better after I've written. It doesn't even matter what I write, just getting something out there. getting words on the page.
That's
I don't know how to describe it. Sometimes, like when I'm writing, I think I did write about this in my very first blog post, actually. And especially if I'm writing on paper with a pen rather than on a computer or on my Word app on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like conscious thought just kind of stops, and I'm just don't even realize what I'm writing. It just, my pen just like moves with a mind of its own, and it almost feels like I'm just connected to something else, and that the words are just coming through me like a vessel.
That's interesting. Are you surprised when you read it afterwards?
Sometimes, like, I mean, obviously I know that, but then I'm like, that happens a lot when I write poetry, because I don't sit down like I'm gonna write a poem and like think about it the way it just kind of comes out, and then I feel that flow is what I call it, that flow, where it just naturally comes out.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Is it like that most of the time when you write, or is that something like you've learned to like somehow tap into?
It doesn't happen every time.
Yeah.
But it does happen sometimes, and it's really cool. And that's like what I want to get to.
Yeah.
But sometimes things don't line up perfectly, and you get a lot of interruptions, and you never get into your flow.
I've had it happen a couple times, and I find those are the days where I'm like, I just want to write nonstop because I know what I'm writing is good, and I'm like just pumping it out. Those are the days where you're just like, I just want to do this all day, because I know tomorrow is not going to be like this.
Right.
I've
had like one day that I was able to write all day, and I wrote like 3,500 words, and in that day, I mean, because I still had to do other things too, but I had the day off, and I still had the kids at daycare, and I was like, today is for me.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna write.
It's so interesting. So I asked you that question, how do you feel whenever you don't write? Because I've interviewed multiple authors now, and every single writer I've asked says that when they don't write, their day is not as good as it could be when they write. Just even like they're just emotional state. They're just not as happy. It's so interesting.
Well, in the beginning of this pandemic, I didn't write at all for a really long time. It was really hard. And then I tried meditating one day, and then I ended up writing a poem from my meditation experience, and then that kind of broke through my block that I was having. And then I wrote that article, we all need to stop pretending we're fine and just feel our fucking feelings.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that, so I'm glad you brought it up.
And it ended up being my most viewed article I've ever written, and I actually won the #1 spot on Elephant Journal that week for that piece.
That's amazing.
And won $300, which was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, who doesn't want $300? That's great.
Right. I mean, I feel like I should make that on all of my pieces now, but I know that's not going to happen.
That's like your mental standard. You're like, this is where I want.
Yeah. The bar is for that.
Yeah. So, was this like the first time you meditated, or is this something you did on and off throughout life?
What was that?
Was this the first time you meditated?
The very first time.
The very first time. What is it you did? Walk me through the process. Like, did you just sit down on your floor and close your eyes, or like what were you trying to do?
It's really hard to do, honestly. I just like turned off the lights and like laid in the bed and closed my eyes and tried not to think, and tried just like to clear my mind. And so, but obviously you can't just clear your mind, so things are going to come through and pop into your head, and you're supposed to try to like let them go. And I had some really weird things go through my mind during that time, which is why I ended up writing the poem that I did. It's called Whispers from Within. I
love the name. It's a great name.
Thank you.
I love it. Have you meditated since then?
No. Well, once.
So you found this one thing that was amazing, and then you just didn't do it again. You will. You will. You will. You will.
Well, I think I'd rather write than meditate.
That's fair.
When I have the time.
That's fair.
My time is so limited that I'm like, I have tried one other time to meditate, so that was actually not true. One other time I did. It's just, there's so many distractions. Like even right now I'm talking to you and I can hear my toddler running across the floor upstairs and yelling. It's hard to focus.
And that's constant, right? That's a constant noise? The toddler running back and forth, that's always there, right? Especially you have two, so it'll be there for a while. So have you tried any other spiritual exercises? Because you know meditation is very much spiritual, especially in the East. Have you done anything else?
Like yoga.
Okay.
I've done yoga. I feel like writing for me is spiritual at times.
Definitely can be. It definitely can be. I had a question and I don't remember what it was. Maybe it'll come back. So, you said you write poems on your blog, and not every post is a poem, but you do write poems on there.
Yeah.
Is that something that you always did? Because you said you grew up writing. Were you writing poems at a young age too?
Occasionally, yeah. Like I remember, I used to journal. Like when I was an angsty teenager, I would journal. I actually have them in a box somewhere, but I'm actually kind of afraid to read them.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd open those.
But I do remember like writing some poems in there too sometimes. So
it's so amazing that you sit down, you think about like some of the stuff you did as a kid that you enjoyed, and same for me, like, and then like along the way we just lose it, and then like as an adult we start tapping back into that stuff, and it's like the joy we find in it. It's like, what happened? Why did we quit? Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. Because I remember being in middle school, and every time I would write something, one of my teachers would be like, oh, this was so good. You definitely have talent as a writer. And I was so sure of myself, like, yeah, I'm going to be a writer when I grow up. And then I don't know what happened, and I just stopped.
You just stopped.
I stopped writing.
Yeah.
And I stopped thinking that I was going to do anything with writing. I took like one creative writing class in college. Isn't that crazy? Just one. And I enjoyed it, but that was it. And I took it like my senior year. And then I just set it aside. And I remember my friend Megan, when I was moved back home and I was struggling, she's like, well, are you writing? You need to be writing. You should be writing. And I'm just like, no. And then I don't know what happened last summer. I just was like, you know what? I should be writing. Sorry, I got a phone call.
It's okay. It's okay. So, it's just crazy. Because I did the same thing. Everyone's done it. Like the things that we love as a kid, we push it aside. And then then as an adult, we're like, man, there's got to be something more to this.
Yeah.
And then you find it. And like it's like when you were a kid, you knew this is what brought you joy the whole time.
Right.
It's crazy.
Because we know who we are when we're kids. We know who we are and we're comfortable with who we are. And then the world makes us think that we need to be different. And really, we just need to be who we were in the first place and not worry about what the world thinks of us.
Yeah. Do you think this idea of you have to do this to get a good job just pushes people in the wrong direction?
It does. It's stupid. Our society is messed up.
Well, it definitely is. It's definitely messed up for so many reasons. But it can be turned around.
All be doing what we're passionate about and what brings us joy, and that's what we should all be doing with our lives. And instead, we go to college because we're supposed to, and we major in something that is supposed to be lucrative when we're done, and to get a job and to do the same thing for the rest of our lives while our souls slowly die inside. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. That's why there's so many health issues. There's so many lifestyle issues that they're harmful. That's why, because people are dying inside and they're trying to figure out what to do. Do you have any other
Just
hobbies?
crack open a beer, that'll be fine.
That's what people do. That's what
I
people
know.
do. And if you drink enough, you won't feel the pain.
Yeah.
Which is the exact
It's so
opposite.
sad.
And this is why I want to talk to you, because it's the exact opposite of how you find healing, right?
Exactly.
Because
That makes things worse.
because what you had to do was sit down in a safe place and say, what
Yeah.
the heck is wrong with me?
Yeah.
I'm so
Yep.
glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. I hope people are listening and are like, I need to do this. Gosh, I do not remember what I was going to ask you. I'm sorry, these questions come and go really
that
fast.
You should never drink. I drink, obviously, sometimes more than I should. Still, I'm just saying that can't be your crutch to get through life.
Right.
Because it was for me in college. I drank 8 days a week. It was bad. It was a bad thing. I was supposedly having fun, but really I wasn't. So many people are stuck in that mentality of just turning to vices instead of fixing what's wrong in the first place.
And it's so hard. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's right.
It's so hard because you get to college, and I think you probably went out of your hometown.
Yes.
And
Thank
God. and so you meet people who you find interesting, and you make friends, and of course you want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
And if they're harmful in any capacity, it doesn't have to be physical, just whatever. If you should have other friends and you still hang out with them, like, they're going to rub off on you.
Right.
Like, everyone thinks they're going to be a saint, and they're going to sit down and be like, oh, I'm going to change everybody. They're going to see it. Like, well, maybe, but the other possibility is also true, where they're going to change you.
Yeah.
And it's like a slow spiral, and then, like you said, like, one day you wake up and you're like, what the frick's going on? Do you have any
like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
You just said, how did I get here? And you have to look at everything. Because every one step leads to another step, and it can go in a really bad direction if you let it.
Yeah. I know people, I'm obviously I'm not gonna say their names, but I know people who in college they partied, that's what they did, and now they have families and kids, and that's still what they do. And I'm like, well, I'm like, that time's over. You're done. I'm glad you enjoyed it, but there's better joys for you to experience now with your family and kids.
Right.
There's so much more for you. And I think you're finding that as well. Like you're so much happier now, right?
Oh, so much. I was a mess in college. I don't even know who that girl is anymore.
No one does. No one in college knows who they are. No one. Unless like you're in your 30s and you decided, like, okay, now I'm going to go to college, because you spent the time figuring out who you are. Yeah. Do you have any other hobbies that you do besides writing? With your two kids and your full-time job? And Yeah.
I mean, I love to read when I can as well.
Okay.
I love to watch Netflix or Amazon Prime or any of that. I love to just be outside as much as possible. Nature is just beautiful.
Amazing.
I live in the country, so
you live in Minnesota, correct? We don't have to talk about where, but you live in Minnesota.
Yes, rural Minnesota.
Have you been elsewhere in the country?
Oh, yeah, I've been a lot of places. I've never lived anywhere else besides Minnesota, and I guess we lived in Wisconsin for a little while.
Okay.
When I was younger, but I've traveled a lot. I've traveled out of the country a lot of times as well.
What's the countryside of Minnesota like compared to other places?
Well, I think it's beautiful. Not in the winter, obviously, because it's cold and horrible. But even then, it's kind of pretty.
Yeah, you're really selling it. Yeah.
I just don't like the cold. The wind hurts my face.
Well, you live quite north for someone who doesn't like the cold.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not my choice.
Yeah.
I didn't decide to move here.
Sure.
I was like, I'm gonna go live in Minnesota.
Sure. What genres of books do you not like that you've read?
Oh gosh.
Or started to read and put down?
I don't know that there's any genre that I don't like.
Okay.
Which is also, it's hard for me to, like, I posted the other day that it's hard for me to put myself into a narrow niche. Like, people are always asking, like, what genre do you write? And it's like, I write everything. I dabble all over the place.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll write fiction. Sometimes I'll write, like, poetry. I'll write just personal stories. I write everything. I don't know how people, maybe eventually I'll narrow it down, but it's, what I got for comments on that was that a lot of people write in a lot of different genres.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. The reason I asked you that was because my idea was, this is an idea I've been toying around. I'd like to know your opinion on it. People are trying to find themselves. Whether they know they are or not, or even they admit, I'm just trying to find myself. In my opinion, to find yourself, you have to try a bunch of stuff, try a bunch of hobbies, read a bunch of stuff you may not have read before, and find out if you like it or not.
Right.
That's how you're going to find yourself.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
You kind of have to, like, figure out everything you don't like.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah. Like I have tried to read romance books. There's nothing wrong with romance books. My wife reads a ton of them, and I was like, give me your best one. Which one do you rank the highest? It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. It doesn't mean it's bad. It wasn't for me. So, like, I know that about myself. Yeah.
I've never had that where
You're lucky.
Probably if it's, like, really boring. If something's really boring, I can't say nonfiction because I write nonfiction, but, like, history, I like history, but if it's a really boring historical...
Well, what makes it boring?
It's just factual stuff and there's no storyline. I probably wouldn't get into that.
Okay. Well, what's boring in TV shows for you? Are there TV shows that you find
anything my husband wants to watch? I don't know. What is it called where Deadliest Catch. I do not get into
Deadliest Catch is so good.
No.
Oh, it's so good.
Not at all.
I have to say, like, I watched, like, the early stuff. I haven't watched it now because it's, like 16 seasons in or something. Like, okay, it went on too long. But I can understand why you wouldn't like that. Because it's just people fishing on a crab boat. Like, that's it. It's
so boring.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out so that people can understand how to, like, figure out themselves is why do you not like Deadliest Catch? Do you know what it is you don't like about it?
Boring.
Well, yes, but what is it that's boring to you? Because other people find it interesting. Do you know what's boring?
What's boring about it is there's just nothing going on. There's nothing interesting. There's no drama. I guess.
There's no drama.
But there's some drama.
There's some drama.
Because I have watched it.
There's some drama. And some people, like, go overboard and they're gone.
Right.
And, like, if you fall over, you're dead in, like, 2 minutes.
Maybe I don't like fishing.
Maybe you don't like fishing. But, the reason I was asking you that is because, like, I feel like this is how, like, people find themselves. Like, they try something, they're like, I don't like this. Okay, what is it I don't like about it? If someone goes and shoots a bow and they miss 5 times, like, did they not like shooting the bow, or did they not like the fact that they missed 5 times?
Right. Like, I hate gambling because I never win. It just feels like such a waste. I mean, if I won, I'd probably get, like, addicted to it and want to keep doing it.
You probably love
and win and keep winning. But because I always lose, I'm like, I don't want to waste my money.
Yeah. And I think it's because like you work like clearly you worked 2 jobs when you had a kid. Like you
Yeah.
worked really hard for your money, and you don't want to lose it on nothing.
Right. It's pointless to me.
It's pointless.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that mindset. That's the exact same mindset I have. So I completely understand.
Yeah.
Um,
But some people are just, they love gambling.
yeah, they love it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they love it.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing in the world to them. Isn't that crazy? I mean, I'm sure we could dive into that. You with your psychology degree, like we could dive deep into
Well,
why.
just like any other vice, like people with
Right.
shopping addictions or cocaine addictions, or, you know, it's something that they get from it, some high
Right.
that they
Well,
need.
I'm sure there's a rush when your number comes up and you win $4,000. I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure there's a rush.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. But the low when you lose has to be so.
And how many times do you lose before you
Yeah.
win?
That's the question.
Is it worth it?
That's the question.
Uh,
That's the question.
But I guess you could say the same thing about a writer, because we want to succeed as a writer, and so we continue to do it, and we'll never stop. I mean, you know, like for instance, when I first decided to start writing, I applied for a mom blog.
Okay.
And I submitted a piece, and I was not chosen for the position, and they offered me like to guest write for them, and I was just like, nah, whatever, I'm not gonna do that. And I kind of wallowed for a day.
Sure.
And the old me would have been like, I'm a terrible writer, I'm gonna give this up.
Right.
And then instead I was like, no, I'm just gonna start my own blog.
Yeah.
Because
Why
that's
not?
what I want to do.
Why not?
And
Why
I
not?
think more people just need to do it instead of
Yeah.
just being like letting one thing
Yeah.
steer the course in a different direction.
And like there's a lot of like best-selling authors on Twitter, because the writing community on Twitter is insane at how like vocal it is, and how like you have someone who's writing their first page today, and then you have someone who's a best-selling novel of 10 books just on there. But even they'll say they get rejected all the time. So like that's just a part of it.
Yeah.
But that's a part of art. It's like not everyone likes it.
Right.
Like you and I can look at the same painting and I won't understand anything, and you'll be like, "This speaks to my soul." Yes. Like, I don't get it.
And I would probably say that. You just have to find your audience, your people, the people that view the world the way that you do, or need what you have to give, or need your message.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on a subject that I've read quite a few people say is like when you're writing or creating art for any means, just any type of art, like you're gonna keep doing it for the people who enjoy your type of art. Right. And the people who are like, this is terrible, you just ignore them because you're like, well, the art's not for you. I didn't write it for you.
Right.
I wrote it for all those other people who said I loved it. Right.
And the main thing that's most important when you're creating any type of art is that it's for you. It's for yourself and not for other people.
Right.
So you have to keep going and keep creating, and that's the only way you get better too.
Yeah. I agree. And the world needs more art, needs more people who just absolutely love what they do.
Well, and I was thinking about that today, actually. I was on my jog. and I was thinking about how there are people in the world that don't think that art is important, or that the arts are important. And they're always that's always the first program cut in schools, the funding for. And I wonder if those people have ever experienced any joy in their life.
Just at all. Just at all. So,
I don't know.
So some people love looking at numbers. It's what they love to do. They love looking at formulas and saying, how can I make this number better? How do I increase efficiency? Some people love that.
Yeah.
I'm not one. Well, that's not true. I do love that, but I like writing more. But some people like standing on an assembly line putting car parts together while they think about other stuff. Some people enjoy that, but not everyone enjoys that.
Right.
Like, we're all just so different. Like,
it is so different. But everybody enjoys art to some degree.
Yes.
If you like watching a TV show, somebody wrote that TV show.
Right.
And so to cut those programs or think that they're not important, like everything.
Well, yeah, so...
The decor in your home, somebody created that.
So, yes, you're absolutely right. And my point was, that person who's there making the decision is the guy who loves the numbers. The guy who says, oh, we can save money by doing this. But they don't understand the art. If you get someone who's the art major, who, like, knows how the Louvre came to be, then, like, they're going to make different decisions. But they're not going to get into that position because they don't love the numbers. It's a mess. It's a mess. That's my
But even numbers are an art.
Right.
In a way.
They are.
Yeah.
An art I don't really understand, but they're there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not passionate about numbers. That's... I mean, like, you know, I can sit down and look at efficiency and say, how do we edit variables to where we're more efficient? And that's part of what I do at my current job. So I do enjoy that. But at the same time, I'm also looking at the outlines of my books and saying, what are the variables here and what are they for? So I think it's kind of the same thing.
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy.
No.
The release of tension that you feel when you write, do you think that's the same reason people go to therapy and counseling?
Probably.
So that they can get that stuff out.
Yeah. Some people aren't willing to be vulnerable. And so therapy is great if you want to keep that vulnerability just between you and that person. Mm-hmm. What I've discovered is that I'm pretty open and I'm willing to be vulnerable. And I feel like that really connects to people. And that's the point in my writing, is trying to find a way to connect and help people. Yeah. In some way. Because there's a lot of people that aren't going to go to therapy and that aren't willing to, but they might read something.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. There's a good chance they're going to read something.
Yeah. Well,
you're amazing. You're obviously passionate about things. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. We're getting close to an hour, and I know you got 2 kiddos, so I don't want to hold you up too long. But I've had a great time.
Thank you. I enjoyed it as well.
I hope everyone goes to your blog. I hope... My chair's slowly sinking, and I feel like I'm just like going into sinking sand. I hope everyone goes to your blog. I hope it explodes for you.
Thank you.
I'm sure there's like a million more questions I could ask you. But what, for the people struggling to move forward, what advice would you give them? The people who are just like in the pit and don't know what to do. Or they know what to do and they just don't want to do it. Because it's hard.
Like, you just have to do it. If they know what to do and they don't want to do it, you just have to. I mean, I know people in my life that are struggling with things and they don't listen to me. I mean, sometimes they just need more time too. You know, people going through divorce or big life changes. Sometimes they just need more time to adjust and to just kind of survive for a little while. And hopefully eventually they'll pull themselves out of it. But the main thing is to do the inner work that you need to do. And you have to face all your demons, all your shadows. We all have them. We all have them. We're all flawed and we're just human. We're just learning. We're figuring it out as we go. And so you have to face those dark parts of yourselves too.
when you were in your recovery stage,
Hmm.
did you have close friends?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still have my college friends. We're still friends. We still hang out. Well, occasionally. I live pretty far from them now, but I have my one best friend that I know I can always count on, and that's important.
The people who are going through it need to have the courage to do what they need to do.
Right.
But the friends of those people, what do they need to do? When you were recovering, what did you need your friends to do? Just be
Just
there?
be there. Just be there.
Just be there.
I remember one thing. I had lost a friend throughout the whole ordeal that I was going through, and I remember my best friend, she said, "Well, I'll always be a friend." And that was huge. Just knowing, like, no matter what, even if they disagree with my decisions and my life choices, she's always going to be there for me. The sad thing is that not everybody has a friend like that.
Yeah. Go find a friend.
And I don't know why people won't go to therapy, because it's actually a really great thing. Because then you.
How much does it cost to go to therapy? Is it a month? What?
I don't know, but
I mean,
know that
I didn't know if it's a money barrier.
It could be a money barrier, but I would think that some insurances would cover therapy.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I don't know.
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
But I mean, there's plenty of churches that offer free counseling and therapy. So.
Right, but not everybody likes church.
Well, that's fair. I'm just saying there's free. I'm just saying there's free options out there.
Yeah.
So what is it you think that people don't want to make the decision? They don't want to go to therapy. Do you think they're just afraid to be vulnerable? Do you think they've been broken and they just don't have trust in people?
I just think it has this negative stigma.
It definitely does. Even just
and
like,
it shouldn't.
It does, yeah. It definitely does. Because even though like we're having this conversation, and I don't think bad of therapy at all. It still has that negative of, okay, you're going to therapy.
Right.
Right? And really it's like, no, I'm broken and I need help.
Well, it just would be so much better if instead of going home and drinking a bottle of wine every night after work, if you're going through a divorce or something, that maybe you talk to somebody instead of self-medicating. Or even, this is a whole nother tangent I'm not going to go down, but I'm not even that big of a fan of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications in general. I think that they're just thrown at people oftentimes that don't really need them, and they can numb people out a lot. Mm-hmm. Which just prolongs the healing process. Because if you're dealing with trauma or a negative experience, that's situational depression. That's not a chemical imbalance in your brain that you need medication for.
Yeah, I agree. I think some people are just bored. And they say, oh, I'm depressed. And it's like, no, you don't have any interesting hobbies. Go do something.
Yeah, that's true too. But there is, I'm not going to say that, because there is clinical depression. There is people that have chemical imbalances in their brain that need to be on medication. But there is a lot that it's just thrown at, just given, here you go, you're sad, take this medication. And that can make a whole other different set of problems for people.
Yeah, and I know you said you didn't want to go down this tangent. But if you don't write, if you personally don't write for a month, are you going to be depressed? Are you going to be not happy? I want to say depressed, just not happy.
Yeah, probably.
The solution there is you write because it's something you enjoy that lifts you up.
Right.
So more people need to find those activities that lift them up.
Yes, they need to find their joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go do that if you're listening. Go do
that. Go find your joy.
Go find your joy. You've been amazing. I'm going to have links to your Twitter and blog in the description.
Perfect.
I'd love to do this again. If you ever decide to publish your memoir, let me know.
Yeah.
I'd love to do this again.
It's coming.
Yeah, I'd love to do this again. Is there any last tips for people or anything you want to throw out before we end it up?
Well, I will say that I'm always open if anybody needs somebody to talk to. I may not have the answer, but I'll try and I'll listen and do what I can to direct people to the right place. Sometimes people just need to know that they're heard.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good point to end on.
Yeah.
You're heard. You're loved.
Yes.
People notice you. You're not invisible.
Yes.
And people care.
Yeah. I'm one of them. I care.
Yeah, I do too. I may not know you personally, but I promise you I don't want anything bad to happen to you.
Right.
You've been amazing, Natasha. I sincerely hope we get to do this again sometime because I think a lot of people will benefit from your story, your attitude, your blog. I really think you're amazing.
Thank you. That's so nice. You just totally made my day.
Yeah, well, great. I'm glad I could because it's definitely true. For everyone out there watching, please check out her stuff. Please hit the subscribe button, that bell, because I want to be able to get you more interesting stuff. And yeah, I think that's it.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.